Welcome back to the Rational Response Squad. I am Brian Sapient.
I am Rick Hawkins.
I'm Kelly. I'm 78.
And I'm Razor.
And we are now joined on the line with Richard Spencer, also known as Skepdick on the Rational Response Squad forums, the vocalist from the band Crossbearer. Richard, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good.
It's great to have you on with us. For those listening in right now, you can check out Richard at myspace.com/The Twilight of Idols. And Richard, everybody in the band is an atheist, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And most of your songs have a free thought tune and theme to them. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's also true.
For people who don't realize the background, you played a pretty important part in our show, The Irrationalities of Theism, in which you wrote a scathing review of theism and from a very philosophical perspective. I'm curious, did you go to school for that, or were you self-taught on philosophy? Because obviously the piece was great.
Well, most of what I wrote in that paper, I come from the study that I've done on my own. I was raised as a Christian until I was 20 years old. I was a Christian. I was raised in church and took it very seriously, and actually went to a Christian university and studied Bible and theology for 3 years before becoming an atheist and dropping out and doing what I do now.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, because the other day we had a Christian on the show who said every Christian who read the Bible considered it to be flawless.
Consider what to be flawless?
Well, I was making a little joke, but the other day we debated a guy named Stephen who said that there are plenty of people who went to school to become pastors and priests and ministers, and none of them found any problems with the Bible. But it sounds like your evidence that his claim was inaccurate. You wanted to be a minister, and you left because why? You tell me.
Well, I think anybody who doesn't find any difficulties in Christianity isn't really speaking honestly. There isn't any one clear incident from that 3 years that I spent in the Christian university that I could point to say, this is where my change took place. It really was a 3-year process. But even from the very beginning, New Testament survey, we start reading, I forget which letters, I think maybe Galatians. At the end of one of Paul's letters, he says, hey, I wrote a letter to the Laodiceans. You should read that letter, and they should read the one that I wrote to you. And obviously, if that letter actually existed, we don't have it anymore. So the question that the teacher asked us at the time was, if we found this letter, should we consider it inspired? Should it be part of the canon here? Paul, in a letter that we consider to be inspired, is saying, you should read this. So obviously that is a statement that we should consider inspired. That's just a question, you hear right from the very beginning. So, if you don't admit that there are these difficulties that need to be addressed within Christianity, that being an example of one of them, then you're not speaking honestly.
I agree, of course, that most Christians are being dishonest. In fact, I coined a term a few years ago with a friend called the theory of inherent dishonesty in theism, in which any Christian who is defending their belief in God is forced to either be dishonest or act ignorant or both. So it's nice to hear that there are people going to Bible study and Bible school and coming out of it, recognizing the flaws in it, and having the decency and personal honesty to recognize that. Of course, now you guys have taken it a step further and are speaking out against theistic belief. Do your band members all pretty much agree? Have you had to try to convince any of them into your philosophy in order to get them to be on the same page? Or, how did that come about? It's probably somewhat rare to find 5 guys to be in a band together, that have so much talent, that have the same philosophical beliefs.
Actually, the way that started out, because the band that we're in now kind of formed out of an older band we were all in. And when that band originally started, I was still a Christian. I was actually just on the way out of Christianity. And by the way, the letter I was just referring to was Colossians, where it talks about the letter to Laodicea.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, I joined, when I first tried out on vocals for the band, I left. I didn't really feel good about the trial. I didn't feel like I had done a good job, and I was kind of thinking about it on the way back home in my car, and I felt like God didn't want me to join the band. I felt like I was praying about it, and God didn't want me to do it. I decided I wasn't going to do it, and then they called me and told me they wanted me to do it. I went ahead and did it anyway, and they kind of made fun of me for a few months about having been a Christian. I don't even think they really knew that I was having internal questions about it. And eventually, I told them that I was no longer a Christian. And people like my mother actually blamed the band for my change, which actually couldn't be further from the truth. They really had no impact upon what was already going on with me. But all the other guys, and it's not the same members now. It's actually only one of the original members from that band. It's Jacob. Only the two of us are still left over from that original group. But everyone that's jumped on board with the band has already been atheist.
Wow.
So I haven't had to do much convincing there.
Wow.
Lucky to have that group there. So the song that we're going to jump into now is Lobby for Aggression. Again, you're on the lead vocals, and the audience can check you out at myspace.com/The Twilight of Idols. This song is about separation of church and state, correct?
Right.
If you don't mind, I'm going to read the lyrics real quick. And then also, of course, they'll be posted at our website, rationalresponders.com. And you can check out the lyrics by visiting his MySpace page and clicking the lyrics button under the song title. But just quickly read the lyrics for those listening. I call abusive power by those elected as bias dictates the laws they choose. I see abuse of the ones who would walk the altar or stand before the flag at school. If freedom of does not provide for freedom from, it enslaves injustice caused by the violation of the separation between the secular and the sacred. You possess the right to worship freely, as I possess the right to dissent. It's blind dictates of theocracy that I resent. Man suffers when gods govern. Sacred texts contain morals that cannot change. Enforcement of them stifles progress made. Bearing the name of God, they represent only the time in which they were written, and now a display of outworn views and unenlightenment. The rules of antiquity should not be our standards. Those who employ them should not be our leaders, lest we regress.
So those are lyrics to Lobby for Aggression. I don't think you really get the full effect of what the lyrics mean reading them like that, as much as kind of following along with the song. It's like you say, it's about the separation of church and state. There's really like a lot of issues that are just briefly touched upon in there. Just like in the beginning of the lyrics, talking about homosexual, gay rights, people preventing gay marriage, being forced to say the flag and say the pledge. In school, saying to God, and having the Ten Commandments displayed, all these different sorts of issues where people are trying to get religion in the public schools or other kind of public policy that religion doesn't have any business stepping in. And I would say like the line that best summarizes the general message of that song is man suffers when gods govern. And that's Lobby for Aggression.
Wow, that is a powerful song, man.
Well, thank you.
Rook, you said you wanted to ask something about the schooling that he had.
Yes. You had said you had gone to a university that was majority of Christian teachings and such.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What I want to know is, was it just that course you took that it really made you think, or was there more to it than that? Like, did you have...
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely more to it than that. I mean, that was just, one incident that of many. I mean, I just mentioned the letter to the Atheists because that was kind of like sort of those questions that would make you think about maybe an issue you hadn't thought about before for, new Christians coming into the school. And like really like growing up in church and studying the Bible in church and going to an actual university and studying the Bible. I mean, even a Christian university, not even a secular university, but just a Christian university and studying the Bible, on like more of a professional, scholarly level it's like a world of difference. Like the first year, of school there for me was mostly just learning to think about the Bible, differently than I had before. Usually, you just think, you just kind of take the Bible as is, and you think this is God's word. What could it possibly mean? What does God want me to do? You're basically looking for messages from God, in it for you. At least that's what I would do as a teenager.
Right.
But then studying it at that level, you actually start thinking about how the books were written, by who, when, where, how were they transmitted, why was this one picked to be put in the canon that, fallible human people put together, and all those sorts of questions. But I think like each of those three years that I was there, different distinct things were going on. And actually, I wasn't the only person who became an atheist that I knew while I was there.
I believe that.
The most damaging case for Christianity is the Bible and an honest person. If somebody can be honest with themselves and then read the Bible, there's nothing more damaging for Christianity.
Yeah, I mean that's at least true of biblical fundamentalism and literalism.
Yeah, definitely. So, can people pick up your music via CD? How can we pimp you out here?
Well, it's mostly everything we've done. Well, I wouldn't say mostly. It is all stuff that we put out on our own. We haven't had any. We've had label interest. We've actually been talking to quite a few labels recently, but as of yet, we haven't put anything out professionally. It's all been just do-it-yourself type stuff. And if anybody wants the music, they can contact me either on my MySpace or you can email me at rspen0777@AOL.com, and I'll get all the songs to you for free. Anybody who wants them, because at this point, we're not trying to make money or profit off of it or anything. We just want people to enjoy our music. That's why we do it.
Okay, great. And you guys you tour mostly in Atlanta, Georgia?
Well, we try not to play a ton of home shows just because you end up getting the same group of kids coming out to your shows, and when bands play too much in their hometown, people tend to get sick of it and they don't come out anymore. And we don't want to, overstay our welcome in our home city. So we try to just play shows with bigger bands that are coming through that we want to play with, or friends of ours especially. We just recently did a tour in the Midwest. We were out for about 2 weeks. Which actually, while on that tour, was when I wrote the little essay that I did for your irrationality theism program.
Sweet. Well, let's move on. We've got to wrap up the show, but we'll move on and close out with the 20-year denial. So, I'll go ahead and butcher the lyrics again, and then I'll let you intro it better than me. And the lyrics to that song are, "To despair that which man cannot avoid is to waste away that which man cannot regain. These are your sedatives. False consequence and hope burn in deception. The graveyards are filled with corpses who traded their souls in exchange for promises that were never fulfilled and squandered their lives on threats never grounded. No man of insight has made his prolonged existence the touchstone of his devotions or insisted on exemption from nature by claiming that man alone is eternal. For the realization that consciousness does not survive the body's death is essential to an understanding of the value of life. And this awareness is the beginning of those actions, both sane and humane. How despicable must a man be and sunk below the level of the most barbaric virtue if he cannot bear to live for love and for his passions. This life is all and it is enough. We answer to no God, just each other here. This life is all and it is enough. No heaven to await, no hell to fear.
This is one of the more personal songs that I've written. I wrote this song about the experience that I had when I was leaving Christianity. Like basically my last days of being a Christian and transitioning into, what was to come after that. One of the biggest things for me was realizing and understanding for the first time in my life that I was going to die. It's something that you understand that human bodies don't live forever. Anybody with any sort of life experience understands that. But being raised as a Christian, not only did I believe that I would live in heaven for forever after we died here, I was actually told that, Jesus would return within my lifetime. So I didn't even think a bodily death was something that I needed to worry about. And after giving up Christianity, that the realization that I would die one day really sort of sunk in for the first time when I was 20 years old. And this song is basically about that experience and coming to understand the meaning of life in a godless universe. To give credit where credit's due, a lot of the lyrics for the song come from Cordes Lamont and the philosophy of humanism. And there are a few other works that I was reading at the time. I don't even remember exactly. I think Paul Kurtz, in one of his books on secular humanism, also has some influence there. Yeah, it's like the ending line, I think it comes out of Cordes Lamont's book, this life is all and it's enough. We answer to no God, just each other here. This life is all and it's enough. No heaven to await, no hell to fear. That really sums up for me what is the meaning of life now. To make the most of what we have while we have it, to not let it get away from us while we have it. So that's 20-year denial.
Excellent, man. Once again, this was another episode of the Rational Response Squad. Visit us at www.rationalresponders.com. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, evolvefish.com and doubledoe.com. Evolve Fish, of course, the home of the evolved fish, a rational response to the Jesus fish. They also have tons of other products, including the Rational Response Squad t-shirt. Check out our new websites, freethinkingteens.com and asktheatheist.com. Richard, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's all Atheist.